Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of Film Seizure. My name is Jeff Arbuckle. With me, as always, my cohorts in this endeavor, Jason Oliver. Jason, how's it going?
Hey, I'm doing pretty well. Doing pretty well. Yeah.
Awesome. Chuck Moore, also, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing great. Just doing
Good.
great. Doing great
Good,
across
good.
the board. It sounds like we are all healthy, happy, and ready to talk about, I ain't gonna lie, one of my favorite movies of 1998.
It's a
And
gooder.
whoo, boy, is it good. And there are a couple of things about this movie that are just top-notch, excellent, excellente, as some might say. We're talking about Out of Sight, directed by Steven Soderbergh. This is
It's our first Soderbergh.
I was about to say, I think it's
Yeah.
our first.
Yeah,
Um,
it's also the end of independent only era Soderbergh. This is his first
yes.
big studio picture. His early career was all indie films, small budgets, kind of oddball stuff. This was the first one, yeah, where he really kind of had a bit of a budget and had big stars to work with.
Well, he certainly has two stars who are on a massive trajectory after this movie.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
and they earn it, I think, big time in this.
Steve
Um,
Zahn and Ving Rhames?
absolutely. Ving Rhames cashed this check all the way to the Arby's commercials.
Hey, how are you?
It really is kind of funny how this is sort of a mix between a like a Quentin Tarantino movie and a what was the other one I was thinking of when I was watching this? It was kind of like maybe P.T. Anderson, a little bit of P.T. Anderson, thinking about the casts, right?
Hmm.
Like the people that are in this movie, it's all very much like people you would kind of see in in Quentin Tarantino movie. It's
Well,
maybe
two
I
of
don't
them
even,
were in Jackie Brown.
yeah,
Right.
exactly. Um, I mean, I don't know. I feel like it pastiches a lot of other directors while also being its own style, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Well, it feels like a movie that was made 20 years before its time. Um,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
there are some of the ways that they shoot, particularly in Miami, feels like an older movie. It certainly kind of has the feel of a gritty kind of crime movie, but it's also kind of funny. And there's I mean there's some good stuff to kind of chuckle about in this too. But it does feel like it is less the present day kind of Tarantino style and more of the earlier kind of grimier studio movie from the 70s, if that makes sense.
yeah. It kind of stylistically, it sort of reminds me a little bit of The Underneath, an earlier film by Soderbergh, where he first started kind of working with those color filter gels, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because there's definitely a day for evening shot in this movie.
Yeah, but there's also kind of like Detroit has its own gel,
It's
right?
blue.
It's
Yeah,
blue,
it's
right?
blue. It's
Miami,
cold.
Miami
It's
is very like saturated color, kind of blown out color, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is kind of the third. This is the third of the kind of the mid to late 90s Elmore Leonard
Mm-hmm.
adaptations. You had Get Shorty in 95,
Yep. Yep.
well liked, which probably also helped Jackie Brown get made. It's like, well, that movie was smart and funny and interesting, and here's another movie
Yeah.
by the hot guy doing another from this novel that made a good movie.
For sure.
And then this one, which came less than a year later. And while this movie didn't really do exceptionally well at the box office, and I was going to pull up here in just a second why that is, because it got boxed out big time in the summer of 98.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but it is kind of the first movie where everybody's like, hey, this George Clooney guy is more than a good looking actor.
Yeah, it's also peak handsome Clooney, if I'm being honest. Like,
Yeah. Oh my God. We'll get to it.
yeah.
But that sex scene between Clooney and Jennifer Lopez is smoking hot.
Smoking.
And it's you just ruined the whole fight. I'm never gonna have another
Smoking.
erection ever again.
Good,
Thanks.
good. I don't want to hear about your erections.
Well, Chuck was having nudes earlier, so anyway, before we started recording. No, but like Jennifer Lopez is unbelievably attractive in this. And it's very subtle too, which is not something you normally say about somebody who looks like Jennifer Lopez.
Well, she's kind of conservative in it, right?
Right, but she's also everything is happening inside her brain. Like you can see her figuring out stuff, the way she talks to people, the way she interacts with people. She is always in control in this movie.
Yes. Yes.
Which is
She is very mommy doctor.
wow,
She's a little bit younger than Mommy Doctor, though.
a
Yes,
lot
that's
younger.
true. That's true, but she carries herself like mommy doctor.
Yeah.
I don't even want to go into that reference right
You know,
now.
this is way unpopular opinion. Way unpopular opinion. But definitely the last time I saw this and the first time I saw this, yes, Jennifer Lopez is smoking hot. She is the sexual eye candy, no doubt, but with a brain and intellect and really cool, like strong female character. But you know who I was like, wowzers on this time around? Was
Catherine
Keener.
Yep, I
Holy
said
hell.
the same thing. Well, and some of that is also the dichotomy of she's also already kind of an attractive person who is on the other end where she's she's a little bit trashy in this.
Yeah.
And so like there's
But those hot pants she's wearing and that sort of like almost 60s sort of hairdo she's got going on.
yeah.
I mean,
Well, she's a little bit Peggy Bundy.
it was working for me. Working for me. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, so it's like the year before George Clooney was Batman, and he takes way more credit for its failure than he should.
Oh, I agree with that. Yeah.
But I think that's the way he kind of gets out ahead of being
Yeah, he just
laughed
owned
at
it.
for being that. Yeah,
He
it's like
just owned it. Yeah.
Right.
It's like, fine. Yeah. I'm the one who had the back card. Fuck it.
yeah,
Right.
it's like I had the nipples and and Chris O'Donnell had the cod piece. Yeah, what of it?
What of it?
Yeah.
Moving on.
Moving on. I was in the one with all the ice puns. But Jennifer Lopez was already Selena
Yeah.
a couple of years before this, and that was this gonna probably make me sound a little stupid. I had no idea who Selena was until that movie came out. It's like, wait, this person died?
Me too. I had no idea.
But she was a significant person, apparently,
Sure.
but not in the realm that I grew up in, not where I was in the 90s.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, she had already kind of had success doing that. And of course, I mean, Clooney's coming off of ER.
Yeah.
Which just about every middle-aged woman watched and lusted after him for however many seasons he was on that show. So, I mean, but this movie was not a very successful movie. I'm going to pull this up, but
It was. I mean, it didn't.
What?
It probably like maybe broke even.
well,
with
it
marketing and
probably
everything.
did with the marketing, but I mean, it was not successful until
But it was
later.
very well liked critically.
Yes, very, very well liked. Chuck, had you seen this movie anytime recently or before? Where's your
Well, I saw it in the theater, but I haven't seen it probably since the theater, I'm guessing.
Right.
I haven't. It's not one I've revisited.
did you like it did you remember liking it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I still don't know if I like it now, to be honest with you.
Huh.
It's tonally wonky. Like, the tone shifts a lot in this movie. And I don't know. It's a little, for me, it's a little bit corny, the love story and all that, the romance of it. And that's just not my thing normally. So there's good stuff in there, of course. And Clooney's great. Lopez is great. Farina's kind of hilarious in it whenever he's talking to Michael Keaton. But overall, yeah, I don't know. It's okay. It's fine, I think.
All right, we'll unpack some of that as we go, I think.
Yeah.
Unless you just want to stop talking the rest of the episode.
No, it's fine. I didn't want to ruin the love fest by interjecting here.
I will say that when I saw this for the first time in the theater, I liked it a whole lot. It has maybe tempered a little bit in time. This last viewing, I quite enjoyed it, but I wasn't as effusive in my love as I remember being when it first came out. But I do think it's a pretty sexy little, black comedy. It's really a black comedy. I think that's the tone it was going for, and the tone that mostly works.
Well, and I would say that the tone, to me at least, is kind of set when he escapes from prison and is in the trunk with Jennifer Lopez. And because I wrote down the line that freaking killed me. I probably actually liked this movie more than the first time I saw it. And I liked it a lot when I saw it. So yeah, it's kind of interesting that we're kind of all over the target here. But we'll let's get into, some of what goes on here. I will say that the movie, when it opens and George Clooney goes to rob a bank. So we find that it looks like he's frustrated about something. We don't know what yet, because there is a little bit of this movie kind of juggles a little bit, a couple of timelines.
Yeah.
Not in a great way either.
I agree. I was a little jarred by the time jumps more this time around. It's
confusing, like when he's in jail and what time
which,
it is.
Which stint is it? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's on purpose or not, but it kind of threw me a little bit. I just stop it and ask Stephanie, like, wait, which time is this?
Yeah.
I can kind of understand that. I mean, I'm not gonna. Yeah, I can understand somebody being like, hey, wait a minute. What I basically just went with was, anytime you were in prison and you saw Don Cheadle, you were some years in the like 2 years in the past or something like that. But yeah, so he's coming out and he's frustrated and he sees that he's right next door to a bank, and so he decides to do what he does, and he's going to go knock over the bank. And when he goes in, he realizes that Ken Shuttleworth is sitting at the bank manager's desk.
There's going to be like 3 people who get that joke.
Right, I know, but well, 2 of them got it, so I'm glad that I made that note. Because that guy did look a lot like Ken, like an older Ken. Anyway.
You know who looks like Ken in only in some scenes, and it's really weird, but Johnny Lee Miller in Hackers. It's fucking weird. Not in all scenes, but in some scenes, like when he's doing the hacking stuff and he's got his glasses on. Holy hell! It's crazy.
Let's talk about this when we do our Ken Shuttleworth episode.
We'll save it for our Ken Shuttleworth episode.
So anyway, so he's kind of studying things, and you kind of see that he's not entirely stupid. He's Jack Foley is Clooney's character, has a string of bad luck. And because, he notices that the guy at the manager's desk has a briefcase open, so he decides he's going to use that in his plot. And he goes up to Loretta the Teller, who I thought was somebody famous, but she's only been in 3 things, but she looks like somebody who was in everything in 1998. Did did either of you like seem to recognize? 'Cause she looked
No,
super familiar to me, but no, she was only
not
in
really.
she was in a movie as a kid, this movie, and an episode of a TV show, and was never seen again.
I tell you what tripped me out was seeing Isaiah Washington. I was
Yeah,
like, oh yeah, that guy used to be an actor
Hmm.
before he threw his career away. Holy
yeah.
crap. He was
So
like he was like, I mean, talk about getting canceled. That guy was canceled before they had a word for it.
what did he do?
He was like super homophobic on the
Oh, okay,
set of Grey's Anatomy.
that's
And he
right.
was written off the show and he really, I don't know if he really worked much again. I think he's been in just like low budget crap ever since.
Yeah, he probably makes a bunch of movies for Ben Shapiro.
Oh, look,
Anyway,
he's in God's Not Dead, We the People. So yeah. Yeah, basically. And Trump
I mean
Card.
that's
So yeah,
okay. Okay,
basically.
so those are two steps below Ben
Uh-huh.
Shapiro's movies. But anyway, okay. So anyway, I just thought that Loretta looked super familiar, and I thought she was in everything. I was like, I've seen her some. Nope, nope, never have before.
Nope, nope.
But he basically says, "Hey, you see that guy over there? He's got a gun, and if I look at him, he's going to shoot your manager, right in the face." And basically, so clean out the drawer and do all the stuff the bank robbers do. And he even goes over to the guy and says something to him um, about
Isn't she
something.
cute? He says, "Isn't she cute?"
Oh yeah, that's right. And the guy's like, "Who the hell is that?" Now that was probably his mistake. Was that because at that point now you got people who are
Well, he was trying to buy himself some time though before she set the alarm or alerted anyone because he said he's going to sit there, for a few minutes while I get away. And if you set off any alarms or alert anyone, he's going to shoot the bank
right,
manager in the face. Yeah.
right, and then but I mean at the same time it's like he drew attention to himself
I
a
mean,
little
it
bit.
was
I
kind
mean,
of a
she already knew he robbed the bank.
yeah. I
I
Fair.
mean,
don't think I
his
don't
car
think
didn't
talking to
start.
that
That's
guy.
what got him
Yeah,
caught.
yeah.
Well, that's true. That's true. I mean, like,
Always leave the car running, man. Always leave the
right,
car running. So, but what the whole point of this scene is to establish a few things, right? It's established that George Clooney is a bank robber and he's charming as fuck,
right.
right?
Yeah.
And he is, and he has no problem with a plan. He can make a plan instantly.
And he's smart.
Yeah,
He's like
right,
he's got a reasonable amount of intellect. Yes.
right. And the word is that he's robbed like 200 banks or something like that.
Right.
That he's like a master thief. But that's probably a little bit of embellishment. But at the same time, we do see him later handle his shit pretty well with Don Cheadle.
Yeah.
So it's like he's not to be underestimated, I guess. But we this movie is pretty good in the first 10 minutes or so, introducing you to everyone you need to know and tell you enough about what these people are and who they are to people. Like, for example, he gets caught and he gets put in jail, and he knows that Luis Guzman and his prison bitch is going to plan an escape that was
The
supposed to be
goose.
the goose, and they were supposed to leave on Super Bowl Sunday, but he knows that they've moved up the timetable. He knows this by just knowing their routine and knowing that they're too busy to go on their jog in the outside time, so there's obviously something's changed. And so
Not
then
too busy. They're saving their energy for the escape.
exactly. Yep, exactly. So, it's you're right on that. So he's like, yeah, you're rested up. You're leaving tonight, right? Or whatever. And so he calls his ex-wife, which is Catherine Keener, to tell Buddy, who is Ving Rhames, his partner in almost everything he's ever done, to basically pick him up tonight, not tomorrow or not next week, tonight. And we also know that Glenn, who's played by Steve Zahn,
God, I fucking love Steve Zahn, man.
He's great.
What a
he
treasure.
and we know that Jack hates that guy. If he's wearing his shades tonight, I'm gonna step on him.
Maybe without taking them off first.
Maybe
he
without taking them off first.
I know I just mentioned this movie, but he's been popping up a lot for me because I rewatched Safe Man the other day, and then he was in that 8-Bit Christmas as the dad, and oh my God, he's wonderful. He's like the best part of that movie probably.
Nice.
And then he popped up back in this. I was like I was having a little bit of a Steve's on
Plus,
film
he's in
festival.
season 1 of White Lotus, right?
Yes, yes, indeed, he is.
And you
But
see his nutsack. Well, I don't know if it's his nutsack or not,
but
but
I watched that a couple years ago.
well, yeah, I'm just watching that now.
So, yeah, but we do end up meeting Dennis Farina and Karen Sisko, played by Jennifer Lopez. Now, it's her birthday, and he gives her for her birthday this really nice gun, and that was always used in the trailers. It's kind of like the
Thanks,
Dad.
Dad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
To kind of set her character up. Yeah.
Yeah, and but the thing is, though, is that she's good at her job, and and like he was another law enforcement person.
Yeah, he was in law enforcement. She's a U.S. Marshal.
Right.
But she, as we find out, is kind of like underused. She does a lot of prisoner transports.
Yes.
She's
and then there's the one boss who's like completely fucking useless.
yeah.
And she solves all the problems for him.
Yeah, but she just wants to, be taken more seriously, professionally. Right. Yeah.
And she rides around with a gigantic shotgun in her trunk.
Yeah.
But she arrives at the prison while Jack is basically knocking out the guards so that he can take the guard's uniform so that he can sneak out basically in all the hullabaloo that's going on with the prison escape.
All right, so Dennis Farina was in, sorry, quick aside, he was in Get Shorty. He doesn't play the same character, right?
No.
Okay.
No, and Get Shorty, he's a isn't he a goon?
He plays Ray
I kept thinking he was going to get
Barboni. I don't remember.
I kept thinking he was going to get his nose busted in this because of Get Shorty.
Right.
Yeah. It's been a while since I've seen Get Shorty.
That's another one that might be worth talking about.
Let's not talk about Big Trouble because that one sucked.
Oh yeah, no. The only thing good in that was The Rock.
Yeah, that's right. An early performance from The Rock. Yeah.
As the gay cowboy country western singer.
Yeah.
But anyway, so she sees Luis Guzman and his prison bitch come up out of the ground. And so she basically, while she's, before she goes and gets her gigantic shotgun out, she's like, hey, guys, there's an escape here. And she kind of helps the prison out. But then after a couple of more guys come out and they get gunned down, like that prison is not interested in going after these people. They're just going to shoot them down from the watchtower.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah, I know. That's pretty brutal.
Yeah. Those guys got it in the back, no less. But anyway, Clooney comes up in the guard that he knocked out in his uniform. And meanwhile, Buddy is like, who the hell is this chick? Who's just happened to be there over some bullshit assignment, basically, to tell a guy that he has no case for, it was something to do with, unfair treatment because the like the fish sticks or something were not real or something. I don't know, but whatever it was something stupid that she was there for. If it was my version, Chuck would have liked this movie better, I bet.
Whatever it was, it's unimportant. She was there, right?
She was there.
She was there. And basically Buddy and Jack have to take her hostage because what are they going to do? She's brandishing a gigantic shotgun. And so Jack and Karen end up in the trunk and they just start talking. and they start talking about, like, the fact that he's robbed banks, and he likes movies, and they start talking about, like,
Well, he comments. I really like he comments on how she's not nervous at all,
right,
and she's like, "Well, what's there to be nervous about? This situation as I see it. I'm just gonna sit here and waiting for you to make a mistake."
right, right,
She's
and
like, "I know who you are. You know who I am. You
right,
know,
right.
I'm in
What
this
more is
situation.
right?
What
What
more is
more is
there?"
there to this? Yeah, and he starts talking about how he likes Bonnie and Clyde, and how they basically died at the end.
Well, she calls him. Oh, I forget Clyde's last name, but she calls him by Clyde's full name, and it
Right.
takes him a minute. He's like, "Oh, you mean from Bonnie and Clyde?"
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then they start talking about Faye Dunaway, which lands him on network. And my favorite line of this movie, when he says, "Oh, I love that one line. I'm mad as hell. I'm not going to take any of your shit."
Well,
And he's so proud of that moment.
that gets a smile out of
Karen's sister.
Karen.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
And of course,
honestly, the
go
most
ahead.
important line in this, in my opinion, is when they start talking about Flight of the Condor, right? Because Faye Dunaway is in that, and she's like,
There's just one thing she never gets.
right.
Yeah,
So one thing
go.
that never made sense, though, the way they got together so quickly, is like, boom. That's the explain away for their whole relationship in this movie.
Yeah.
Right. And, I mean, it's I
It's
look
just a
at it
little
as,
wink. It's a little
yeah,
wink, like, hey, it's a movie,
yeah,
right?
hey,
Yeah,
these are star-crossed lovers.
right.
Who cares why or how? It's right.
It may happen once in your life, or twice in your life, or once. Like.
Right, right.
Yep.
No.
Well, I'm mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take any more of your shit. The goofy ass grin on his face when he yells that fucking kills me. It's like, that guy's gonna be a big star, I bet, someday.
And it doesn't that feel like Tarantino writing though? That scene,
A little
like,
bit. I mean, I would be curious if that is in the original
I would be too,
book, because
which would
it
make
is.
sense too, because that's just kind of like art imitating art a little
Right.
bit, which would make sense. I mean, Tarantino's
Yeah.
obviously a huge Leonard fan.
Yep.
But yeah, there was just so many moments in this where it's like, is Soderbergh purposefully trying to just like riff on Jackie Brown? Like, what is
Yeah,
it's kind of wild.
yeah, it is kind of interesting.
But maybe
because
it's just the whole Elmore Leonard thing,
that's all. Yeah, because, like, if you think about it, Get Shorty is a very Tarantino-esque
it very
movie.
much is. It very much is, yeah.
And, I mean, hell, it's even got friggin' John Travolta in it.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, it's like, I don't know.
Well,
but
well,
like,
that was the other thing too. Like, I think when this movie came out, sure, I knew Clooney from Batman, but what I loved Clooney from was From Dusk Till Dawn.
oh,
like,
sure.
And Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Now, the Return of the
it took
Killer
me a while to
Tomatoes
put those
is-
two things together. I think that was like years later before I realized, oh shit, he was in that stupid B movie I watched on USA Up All Night.
he's charming in that.
He's
Like, you
charming
can
in
tell
everything.
that. Yeah, you can tell that he's not charming as Batman. He sucks as Batman, but that's
But he's still George
but-
Clooney.
He was
I
kind of a
mean,
Bruce
he's
Campbell like in Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
yeah, he
Yeah.
was. Yeah. He well, in Batman, he was given shit, and he probably knew it was shit. And he was, it's like, what are you going to do with it? And he's just playing himself at that point.
yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. Anyway, I really don't like Batman and Robin, if you haven't noticed.
I mean, there's not much to like, so yeah.
Well, there are things to laugh at, but I don't know if
Sure.
that means that it's not a torture session. But anyway, so yeah, and this is where so they're going to go and meet Steve Zahn.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, and he comes out, and and it's like, he goes, "Hey, you're on the outside now. You don't have to talk to me like this anymore," because he's like, he does not trust. I mean, Steve Zahn's character is an idiot. I mean, there's no nice way of putting this.
He's kind of a stoner.
Right, he's just, yeah. I mean, like, he's like, why are you wearing your sunglasses at night? And he's like, well, I can see better this way. It's
And Steve Zahn is coming off of a couple movies where he played kind of a buffoon. Suburbia, Richard Linklater's Suburbia, and then That Thing You Do. He was kind of the goofy one of the band, right?
yeah. I mean, he plays goofy well.
And wow, he had quite a 1998 Object of My Affection, Out of Sight, Safe Men, and You've Got Mail. He was in
And
all
I
of
bet
those
he was the
things.
goofball in all of them.
He was definitely, he was kind of the straight man in Safe Men, weirdly.
Yeah,
Huh.
a little bit. That's
Yeah. Sam Rockwell is more of the goofball.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a goofball off at that point.
But that whole movie is goofy.
Yeah.
yeah.
So he's like the least goofy in the goofy movie.
He was
Yeah.
also goofy in Saving Silverman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, that still has Arlie Ermy saying that he was happy to meet Neil Diamond, and then he jumps out the fucking van while it's moving is still comedy gold. Anyway, that's a funny movie that is very bad. Anyway, beside the point. So basically he shows up to he's going to basically take them to Detroit is what we know about later. But he is he's sitting in the car with Karen because they don't know, well, they keep Karen around when they should have just left her in the trunk.
Yeah. Ving Rhames is like, what are you doing? What's going on? Let's go.
Right. Ving Rhames is like, why are you keeping her around? So I don't know what to do with her. We know why he wants to keep her around, because he's like infatuated with her.
He is, and he wants one chance to like clean up and have another conversation with her.
Right. And he's like, yeah, what do you think's going to happen when you show up in your 3-piece suit? And
Meanwhile, he's like continuing to kidnap her.
right. And so meanwhile, while he's trying to explain himself there, Karen starts whispering into Glenn's ear about what's going to go down if they get caught or when they get caught. And she's like, well, right now you're probably all right. But if they decide to kill me, it's like, it's basically going to snowball is what she's convincing him.
Well,
of.
she's basically like, you haven't even helped them yet.
Right,
They haven't even gotten in the car yet.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
he just fucks off. He just takes off with her. Now, later in this timeline, we find out that because he's wearing his shades and it's nighttime, he doesn't see the exit that she tells him to take. And
He sees it. He just doesn't want to take it. He like he's actively arguing with her. Yeah.
Fair.
And she
Yeah.
grabs the wheel, I think, and
Right. And they hit the water barrels and she gets hit. They hit the retaining wall there or whatever it's called.
And while she's knocked out, she has a dream that she walks in on George Clooney in the bathtub, which you think might be happening at the time, but in reality, it's not.
right,
because we do find out that Clooney and because it is in the hotel room.
Susan yelled out, "This is bullshit."
It was bullshit.
I was like, I think it's a fantasy. And she was like, oh, okay.
Well, but we are kind of led to believe that it's real because it is the hotel room that Ving Rhames and
Well,
George Clooney
you believe it until she gets in the bathtub with them. It's like,
Right.
oh, okay, eye roll. This is
right.
not really happening. Yeah.
Well, and then you think, well, maybe it's his fantasy. It's like he's asleep in the tub or whatever. It's like, no, she's talking in her sleep in the hospital bed.
You know what's interesting? So a lot was made of the chemistry that those two had in this movie, and it's true. They had undeniable chemistry, but they're really not in the movie together that much. Maybe 10% of the movie.
Yeah.
For four main scenes, are they in together?
Yep.
They're
The
in
trunk.
the trunk scene, yeah. The hotel dream sequence, the best scene in the movie, honestly,
the bar in the room.
the bar intercut with them having sex in the
Right.
hotel room, and then the end.
And then the final, the finale.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like and meanwhile, he is constantly talking about her, even knowing that she's going to go and talk to his ex-wife Adele. He has Ving Rhames take him to Adele's place to just get a look at her
Now
before
they're
they
worried
head
about
to.
Chino. They're worried about Chino showing up there. He's kind of
Yeah.
surprised
True.
that she shows up.
Yeah.
True. But he does say, well, you've seen her. Now you're ready to go. And he's like, yeah, let's go to Detroit. Now, Chino does show up later.
Yeah, while Keener's being interviewed by Lopez,
Yep.
Right. And that
which is pretty funny scene.
right. But it's also a really good scene for Jennifer Lopez, too, because whenever you hear any of the other people in the law enforcement side talking to anybody, it's very brief, it's very abrupt, it's very by the book, and we just want the answers, or we're going to rough you up, or we're going to violently get answers or make an arrest. Meanwhile, every time she talks to somebody, she's empathetic. She talks to them, she listens to them, she seems to sympathize with them. And she's but meanwhile
She has soft skills, as they say.
yes, and she's able to get them to say things that helps build out an entire picture of what this guy is like, which probably only fuels her that much more towards, hey, I kind of like this guy, because Catherine Keener, despite them being divorced, her and George Clooney apparently like each other. And she has a lot of good things to say about him and a lot of good things to say about Buddy. She doesn't seem to want to, she wants to do her job, but she doesn't want to hurt these people. And that kind of plays out in the finale as well.
Yeah, she's definitely not a violent person, but it's one person in particular she really doesn't want to hurt.
Sure.
If she came up on any of the other three, if they hadn't been disposed of by the finale, who knows what she would have done. We only really see her interact with him. We don't see her with any other criminals really besides Steve Zahn. And she never really catches him doing anything.
No, but she, again, her soft skills, kind of gets her out of that, even though she ends up in the hospital with a concussion, it gets her out of that situation where she was going to be still, a hostage or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but like, she's also patient too, because like, she said it in the trunk, so I'm waiting for you to make a mistake.
Well,
What's funny is that the mistake
they both are, right? They both have like that same level of cool, same level of
Right.
patience. Yeah.
Right. It's kind of more of the cat and mouse type of game where, she will be patient to find out what his next move is. Meanwhile, her boss and the task force can't even fucking wait for the elevator before they have to go up and bust the door open.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, and they don't even really know that they even have the right equipment to bust the door open. She's the one
Right.
who observed the fact that, the manager's office here in this hotel that they're staying at has metal in it. A battering ram is going to do nothing.
Well,
and
it will just make a lot of noise.
It'll make
Right,
too much noise.
right.
Yeah, it'll alert them too quickly because it probably won't be like one ram that gets them in
Sure.
the door. Yeah.
Sure. And then
Yeah.
one guy's like, well, I've got the thing in the shotgun to shoot the, lockout or whatever, which that also is, at least gets the door open, but that was
Well,
loud, too.
yeah, but like the key is they need to get in quickly.
Quickly.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Which, the thing is that, maybe what they should have done anyway, just said, hey, make sure you have this stuff just in case, but they don't bother. I guess the point is that her boss doesn't even bother.
There's a machismo and a hubris to all these guys. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And they're constantly hammering home that she's working in a man's quote unquote career. Right.
Sure.
And it's difficult for her. They're creating kind of like all of these exaggerated juxtapositions between her level-headedness and everyone else's just like monkey man, Hulk smash mentality. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that drives home the point too for her that sure George Clooney threw her in a trunk, but he's at least respectful
Yeah.
of her.
Right.
Yeah.
Which
Well, yeah,
is
he says that I'm not going to rape you. You know,
yeah,
it's like,
Right.
right. But I mean, which is not the same for old Kenneth later on.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
poor
Yeah.
Nancy
Yeah.
Allen.
It's a good
yeah.
point, Chuck. She recognizes well, there's just an undeniable connection, right?
Right.
Yeah. And you're right. He's not like the mindless drone that most of these goons she works with are.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. And,
And it's funny because one of those mindless drones that she works with, she's also fucking to her dad's chagrin, right?
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ray Nicolette.
Ray
Good old-
Nicolette.
Good old Michael Keaton shows up here for a scene in which he's wearing a shirt that says FBI in big giant letters, and her dad asks, "Have you ever thought about wearing a shirt that says undercover?"
Yeah.
And he thinks about it for a second. He's like, "No," like as if like, why are you asking me that?
It is a good little performance from Michael Keaton.
Right.
It really is. The whole interaction between him and Farina is golden. Yeah.
Yeah, he's so toothy gum chewing Michael Keaton in
Yeah.
this movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he's going back to his gung ho days.
Yep.
Yep.
So basically, he
And of course he's on the task force and she isn't, right?
right.
And it's just like, oh, right. I mean, ugh.
Well, shouldn't I mean, okay, FBI can do anything, I guess, anything inside the country, but aren't the U.S. Marshals the ones who go? I mean, we watched a whole fucking movie about a U.S. Marshal
Yes,
on the run after a fugitive.
They are, which is why her
Bunch.
boss is like the head of the task force. But yeah, the FBI got in on it too because it's
there's
probably
other US Marshals on it,
interstate.
yeah.
Yeah,
There was
okay.
interstate kidnapping. There was like all sorts of stuff that the FBI can horn in on. Yeah,
Gotcha. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's important when Ray Nicolette shows up there. It's Ray Nicolette, Mr. Cisco, and her, and why can't I remember Keaton or Clooney's name in this movie
Jack
for some
Foley.
reason? Yeah, Foley. Foley calls her,
yeah.
and he's looking through her purse, and she's sitting there with someone on the task force. She's like 5 minutes and walks away. So you're like, okay, she's either interested in him or she's going to try to figure this thing out on her own. And Foley keeps telling her, yeah, we'll get the diamonds. We'll go live on an island together. And she's like, what do you mean us?
Right.
And then, what happens after that? I think he has to hang up the phone because Ving Rhames saw Ray Nicolette on the television or something like that he was in the task force. I can't remember why he's freaking out.
Well, because I think the FBI brings it means it's maybe a wider net as far as like trying to this has gotten beyond the marshals.
And while that's going on, Dennis Farina is talking about one of the escapees who stopped at someone's house and this lady slept with him.
Right.
And he's like, oh, yeah, I guess it's okay if, the husband doesn't find out that she did it, much like if a man was cheating on his wife, which is what Nicolette is doing with Cisco. So, yeah.
Yes.
It's a good little scene. Funny little scene.
Yeah, he is not pleased that his daughter is seeing a man who is separated but not moved out of his house with his wife. So
Which
it's
is
like
kind of funny because he is at least chuckling at the fact that she's in love with a bank robber.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Which is because it's like he takes her to the airport so she can follow Foley to Detroit. And he's like, and he even is questioning her. It's like, well, what he says something like to the effect of, what do you think he'll do when you, or like, what do you think he's been doing? Something, and she's like,
He's basically gently ribbing her about her interest in him.
Well, even later,
but has trust in her that she will do the right thing.
Yeah, but about her interlude, he calls it.
Yeah,
right.
So he knows the whole thing.
He knows like what went down, basically. Like probably not the X-rated version, but yeah.
Right.
I mean, it semi suggests what happens at the end of this movie,
Yeah,
which we'll talk about later.
yeah,
He
yeah,
semi
yeah.
suggests it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because it's not gonna. I mean, there's no way this is gonna end happy and everybody gets what they want.
Well, not everybody. Yeah, for sure.
Right. I mean, yeah. So it's like there is no island for them to go to.
Well, I don't know about that.
Well, fair enough. I think there is a question
Yeah.
at the end, but there's. I mean, I mean, Jack Foley is not in the Karen Cisco TV show that came out later. So
Fair. Did one really come out? I don't even know
yes,
about this.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, there really was one. It was on ABC, I believe, and it was Carla Gugino playing her.
Interesting. All right. So,
So yeah. So anyway, so in intercut with the main plot line of they need to go find Glenn, who is surely already left for Detroit. That there are plans waiting for them in Detroit. Intercut with that, we find out what those plans ultimately are, and we find out that some years ago, when this was like 2 or 3 years ago, when Buddy and Jack were serving time together for a job that they got caught on. They knew of a very, very rich person played by Albert Brooks, who has wonderful hair pieces later on in this movie. His toupees are hilarious, but but he's basically getting shaken down by Don Cheadle. And this
Snoopy.
is Snoop. Yeah, they call him Snoop, and because Maurice Miller. And now Maurice fancies himself to be kind of a hot shot. Now he does do some boxing in there, but he always has protection with him. But we find out later, if I'm not mistaken, is he shivs a guy at one point, and it's
he
the
ships
first
the
time.
guy that he took the dive for.
Yes, and then, but that was the first time he ever killed somebody, right? Don't they say that this is the first time that
I don't
he
think
did
so.
that? You don't think so? I thought they said
I don't
that.
think they say that, but
I don't remember hearing that, but
I thought they made mention that was the first time he actually shivved somebody. He may have been talking about, it's like, this was the first time I took the dive for someone, because Foley does give him a little shit about basically throwing a boxing match. But he is so Richard Ripley, who is Albert Brooks, he's basically getting shaken down for stuff that he wants to have in prison. Snoop is going to get that stuff for him, but he's basically overcharging him for everything. And Foley tells him, this is the dumbest shakedown I've ever seen. It's like, and he kind of ingratiates himself with Dick Ripley.
yeah, he's basically telling him, like, look, if something were to happen to Ripley, he'd get sent away and you'd get nothing.
Right.
If you killed him, you get nothing.
Right.
If, all these things happen, you get nothing, which this is where I think most of the tonal weirdness of this movie for me is with Maurice, and his character and the part he plays in the movie, because even this scene is played off very funny. Like, it's not that serious, with the exception of at the end, Maurice crushing the fish that he got for Ripley.
Yeah,
it's played as a joke almost.
Yeah, although I would say in response to that it's to show the other type of criminal.
No, that's not my point, though. The tonal part of this is like, even Maurice is kind of lighthearted almost, except for squishing the fish. And then later they do a literal hatchet job on somebody. So that whole scene is like so out of left field in this movie when they go on the job and kill that family or whoever the hell they kill.
Well,
It's like
yeah,
this is
It's a big
way
jump.
too heavy for
Yeah.
this movie that I'm
yeah.
watching.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah.
I mean, so some of this I also kind of take as one, in prison, Maurice acts like a bigger person than he really is. Now he does do enough to always have protection, and he can scare people into. He doesn't scare people like Jack. He doesn't scare people like Buddy, but he can scare people like Glenn and Ripley because they're
I mean, he shivved
you
a
can shake
dude.
them.
He shivved a dude. So I mean, he's
Sure.
obviously they're setting up this character as a meanie, but that scene later is just so out of left
Well,
field.
I
Like,
think and where I was going with that is that here is a couple of years later where he is basically running a bigger kind of operation in a tough town, and he does these more he does these wildly more aggressive things. And yeah, I understand where you're coming from on that,
they could
but
have made that point in a very different way. Like
right.
his character goes from kind of funny in the jail to a complete fucking crazed lunatic menace, and it just didn't mesh with me. Like
Mm,
seeing that transformation for him.
yeah.
That's all. And
Yeah.
even White Boy. We'll talk about this later. Like White Boy Bob, is that his name?
Right.
He's like very menacing in this middle of the movie, that one scene, and then think about how his story ends, how many times he falls down, like him stealing steak when they're trying to, like, it's just tonally that middle part of the movie with Maurice and White Boy Bob and all that just does not make any sense to me at all.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, that's fair.
Yeah.
um so basically they find out that, like, Glenn, Ripley told Glenn, because he didn't think that anybody would believe Glenn, that he keeps $5 million in uncut gems in
Yes.
his house. And and I mean, Jack Foley even said it's like, why the hell did you tell Glenn this?
He's like, it's a big house. No
Well,
one
it's a
would
big
believe.
house and nobody would believe Glenn. He's like, but that Glenn's going to tell somebody who's going to take it seriously.
He's like,
And
they need to know where they are, which
well,
they don't.
right, and which is fine, but I think Foley's point is like, basically it's like, you basically endangered your life.
Oh, sure.
It's like they're going to kill you if they don't find it. And it's kind of the, Ripley kind of lives in this, he's a tough guy in the business world, but he's an idiot
He's a
who,
white collar criminal, dude.
yeah, exactly.
He doesn't know how to deal with the real criminal element.
Right. He
Plus,
doesn't
Steve Zahn is not real criminal element either.
no, he's an idiot.
What's he
Uh,
actually even in for?
I
I
don't know
can't
if they ever
remember
actually say.
because
Was
she
he the one that
mentions
had credit card fraud?
maybe
Somebody did that.
Terrence mentions that she had transported him before and
Oh
that she
yeah.
recognized him, but I don't remember what it was for.
Probably
But
something
yeah,
stupid.
he's a dweeb.
Yeah.
Right.
He's in way out of his element,
Yeah.
obviously, in
Right.
every
Yeah.
situation he's in.
Absolutely, because he doesn't do larceny like Buddy and Jack does. He does,
He's not violent. He's not a
he's not
violent
I
criminal.
mean, he is fucked for the rest of his time in this movie, which isn't long after he helps kill that guy. It's like, this is not, I mean, he wants to be a guy who does an easy job and walks away and never has to deal with the consequences.
Well, I think everyone just pushes him around to get him to do what they want him to do.
Right. But now
I
he
wouldn't
does
say
think,
that he necessarily helps kill anybody either. He's facing the other way the whole time and is scared shitless. But yeah,
well, he does have blood all over the front part of his body, though.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah, but
What's-
that could be splatter. I mean,
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, it is,
Yeah.
but I mean, like, he's watching it and he's kind of in the mix, and he's at least, at one point, I think he's holding the guy down.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
I mean, I'm not trying to explain away his involvement really, but it's pretty clear he would rather be anywhere else.
Right.
Yes.
Well, he also realizes very quickly that he thinks he's in charge of this job later on in Detroit. And Maurice is like, no, you never were. The
Yeah,
moment you told me I
he
was in
steals
charge.
he steals a car, and immediately Don Cheadle's got his guy driving it, and he's like, "It's my
Yes.
car now." He's
Yeah.
like, they're talking about how they're going to do the job, and that they need him to prove himself. So they're like totally taking over the job. Like he has been actively diminished from like the jump.
Well, yeah, because like the moment then that Kenneth comes in and he's like, wait, whoa, wait a minute. How many guys? This is my job. And Kenneth, who just got into the car, is laughing at him.
hmm
You know,
hmm
it's like this was never his job. And, you
Kenneth
know,
is the scariest guy in this movie, by the way.
yeah. Well, he
He is.
goes,
His scene with J-Lo Cisco is like, oh shit, he got
Yeah.
what he deserved in that
Oh,
scene
yeah.
and later for
Oh
sure.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, that was also something else from the trailer.
Oh, the
You wanted
you
to
wanted to
tussle?
tussle? We
tussled.
tussled. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
in every trailer. Yep.
Um,
Small little Viola Davis scene too.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. Viola
Yeah.
Davis in this as Moselle Miller.
And she
Yeah.
later worked with Soderbergh on Solaris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's really good in her one little scene. And again, it's Karen she gets her to open up to her.
Yeah.
By talking about like the dog that died. And, you know, it's like kind of appealing to her humanity, if you will. You know, so yeah, and then of course Kenneth comes in and sends
Sends her to
Moselle
get some
on her
fried
way.
shrimp.
Get some fried shrimp or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
what do you do?
Susan at that point said, "I want some fried shrimp."
Yeah, I did too. Yeah. But yeah. And then he tries to basically tell J-Lo that he's gonna rape her, and then she beats the shit out of him.
Yep.
Yeah, well, they were gonna tussle on the floor like you did with the dog, and every good bitch loves a bone, Jeff. Oof.
Yeah.
All
It's
of
kinda
that was
terrifying.
gross. Yeah, all of
Yeah.
that
And
is
that's-
gross.
Tonally weird for the movie too. Like that scene, I was like, "What the fuck
But
is
it, but
this?"
it, but it's to,
I know what it's there for.
you know, it's to give her a moment, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but she could have. Yeah, I just think
It's to define that character, you know, also kind of set him up for later, right?
When he, because he goes straight to,
Because Clooney
he goes
has to
straight
make a choice, right?
Right,
And-
exactly.
And he sees that guy for the animal that he is,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
right,
for sure.
because the moment he sees Nancy Allen,
Yeah, I
He
can't
doesn't
believe
give
that's
a
Nancy
flying-
Allen.
I
That's so
know.
funny. Yeah.
Midge,
Yeah,
the
Midge.
moment he sees Midge, he doesn't give a fuck about those diamonds anymore.
Right. Right.
That is, he's a bad dude.
Yeah. Scary guy.
So, but anyway, yeah. So Jack and Buddy end up in Detroit. They find out that Karen's here too, and she's asking around about. At first, she's asking about Glenn and Maurice, and that she knows that Jack and Buddy are going to be there, but she's mostly asking about Maurice and Glenn.
Her professional mission is to go after Glenn. Her personal mission is to find
Yeah.
Jack
Right.
while she's
Right.
there. So when she speaks about it publicly, she has to talk about this Glenn character because that's who she would naturally be going after.
Right.
Yeah.
And so she ends up getting some information from an old friend of hers that is investigating the murder of the guy who Maurice and Kenneth and White Boy Bob and
Yes.
Glenn went to go kill.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think the guy says, I thought everybody liked whatever the guy's name was. It's like, so they're even kind of laughing off that, it's basically a gangland killing.
Yeah, where someone got chopped to bits.
Yeah.
Again, I wouldn't be joking about that. It's
Right.
just weird.
But it shows that, they're not exact. I mean, they're a lot less serious than Karen is. In the male side of the law enforcement crew. but she ends up they end up finding or seeing her in the paper
Yeah.
the next day. It's like, oh, she's here. And Jack calls every single hotel in Detroit to
Even a
find her.
Best Western.
Yeah. I think it
And
just goes down alphabetically.
Right.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, she's in a hotel bar that looks very, very pricey.
It really does. Like, it's got a nice view. Like a
Hell
real
yeah.
nice view.
Like
yeah.
it's almost like that bar should be rotating.
Yeah.
You know?
It's where the ad agency guys go, so it's like
It's tippy top. Yeah.
Those
tippy top.
doofuses.
That's where all the madmen go.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is kind of funny because they all are like trying
They're
their best
tagging
lines.
in.
Yeah,
Yes,
they're trying their
it's
best
funny.
lines to get to her.
That scene is funny. Like,
she's great in it too.
so
like,
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
The first guy, she's like, I don't want to be rude. I just want to be left alone. The next guy just starts talking about fucking nothing.
And
And
sits
she's like,
down.
Yeah, and she's like, who fucking cares?
But it's really funny
She
because
keeps calling him by his name too. And
Yeah.
she's like, and who really gives a shit, Bob?
Yeah. What's really funny too is that the story they give her about who she is, who they think she is the story she gives Clooney when he sits
Right.
down, like when she says she's
Yeah,
Celeste and he says he's whomever. So that's kind of cute and funny.
Well,
it's
what's kind of
good
funny
stuff.
too is the story they give here isn't all that off either.
Right.
As far as like the dynamic that she has to deal with in her job, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But they can't see past their own profession where it's like, oh, you must sell something and be
Right.
be on the ad
She couldn't
team.
possibly be cop, right?
Right.
Yeah, they're demeaning her while explaining her actual situation in a way.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then of course, like, when Clooney shows up, those guys should just fucking hang their heads. Like, you guys ain't got shit on this
I wish
dude.
there was kind of like a insert shot like that because it's like when he shows up all cleaned up, it's like holy crap. Yep.
Yeah,
I
it's
love
everybody in the
Hoover.
bar should be watching that tape.
Yeah. I love that shot too because at first you think, oh, it's just the third dude
Right.
that was with the other two guys, and then you realize it's Clooney, and it pans up.
Because he's playing.
It's just
with
really
the-
well done.
Yeah.
That shot.
That's very cool. Like that's Soderbergh cool, right? For sure. Yep.
Yeah. And yeah, this whole sequence is hot.
Yeah, it's good.
Because they're playing, they're doing a little role play. They're kind of bouncing off of each other a little bit, and then it intercuts going up to the bedroom, and
Right.
woo,
Well, you know the inspiration for the scene, right?
don't look now.
Yeah, movie we
Yeah.
have covered on this very podcast, and,
did we
and a
mention that
movie
when
that
we
I
watched it?
believe I called the sexiest scene ever shot.
You
Well,
did.
this is up there. This one's up there too.
And this was directly inspired by that one. Yep.
There's one
I mean,
thing I
this
don't
is-
like about it:
What?
the stops. Like they're gonna
Oh,
cut
like the-
away. They stop like briefly.
The little
like,
freezes.
Yeah.
Well, you know what's
I-
funny? You know what's funny? Like, there was something fucked up with the stream. I watched this on Peacock. There was something fucked up in the stream where it would pause in the wrong places. So I didn't know if it was a stylistic pause when it happened or an actual pause when it happened
Oh.
because it was like a stutter, right? I was like, oh, that was a
Yeah.
stutter.
There's some stylistic pauses there, and I guess for the time that's probably done, or maybe Soderbergh did it a lot. But for me, it like just took me out of it.
Well,
I
it-
like
This steamy, awesome scene, and they keep.
I like when he left this scene with a pause, or he cut with a pause. I liked that. I didn't like it when he would pause and then restart. That ever
was
happened?
this scene.
Yeah,
That
I didn't
was
like
this
that
scene.
a ton. I don't like that
Yeah.
a ton.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
Like you cut on a pause, not
Yeah.
you don't
Right.
restart on a pause.
Yeah.
Yeah.
this basically sets up the entire. This is the other half of setting up the finale.
Yeah.
Which is, hey, we're gonna, this thing's gonna happen, but tomorrow the chase is back on. Basically, it's a
Yeah.
pause.
They're
Well,
on a timeout. Yeah.
well, there you fucking go, guys, with your timeouts and your pauses.
Eh,
You know,
that's groany if that is intentional. It's real
yeah.
groany.
they said
That's-
I mean,
That's pretty corny.
the very first shot in the movie is a pause. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like they introduced that halfway through midstream. But so basically, they start off doing a little bit of the role play, like, hey, I'm Celeste, I'm, and whatever his name that he gives. The other three dudes at the bar have to hang their head in shame and leave because this shit you just got outclassed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then and then they're up in the room and she even gets out, and she's the one who's basically like, this wasn't just some fantasy fuck.
Yeah.
It's like, this isn't just me being weak. This, she basically is telling us, like, you're just as taken with me as I am with you.
Clooney in his response is really good. It's a really good piece of acting because
Why are you mad?
yeah, in that moment he's a little bit different than you see him in the rest of the movie, right? He's very serious and he's almost incredulous a little bit, right? But he's still kind of cool. He never comes across as ever really angry in this movie, right?
No.
But he feels like it's important that she understands that what she is entertaining in her head that might be the case is not true. And he gets very, very serious. Right?
Yeah, and he even asks her or doesn't ask her, he tells her, you're getting all serious on me now. It's like,
Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah,
moment.
and he even delivers a really good compliment in there too, which is, if I was like any other bank robber, you would be an idiot, basically.
Right.
But you're not. You're the smartest. You're the smarter of the two of us.
And then he undercuts it all with a joke when she was like,
Sure.
"Well, you're obviously smart" or something like that, paraphrasing, and he was like, "Well, not that smart. I got caught like how many times? 4 times or something like that."
Yeah. But no, I mean, he is again, it's the charm. I mean, we're seeing exactly why he's a mega star today. I mean, sure as fuck wasn't The Peacemaker or whatever the fucking movie that was.
Oh man, I mean, yeah, I mean,
that was such a cheap action movie, or not cheap in the sense of checking boxes, just making it work.
He gets to be a leading man in a big, Hollywood action movie.
Sure.
Yeah, it didn't work, but he got to star alongside Nicole Kidman and all that, right? It's like those are the kind of like chances you have to take, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
I think this is the role too that probably got him "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" Like, he is a magnified version of this character in "Oh Brother."
I guess he kind of is.
Kind of. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it was immediately like the line was drawn, but he was pretty charming in a lot of things, I think, even before.
Sure. I just see a lot of Ulysses Everett in this character,
For sure.
honestly. And George is George Clooney a lot anyway. He's one of those guys
Yeah.
So it's maybe hard to say, but it is like that charming, funny aloofness is totally there in all of "Oh Brother."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I can't deny that. That's 100% true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is the moment that they exercise what he brought up in the trunk. Like, what would it be like if you met me under
in a bar,
circumstances?
in a different, yeah, exactly.
And this is that played out. So if he wasn't a bank robber and she didn't have a job to do, they would be in love and they'd probably live at least happily ever after for a time, right?
Those children would glow. They would.
Yeah.
I mean, they would just be balls of light.
It is interesting, Chuck, the "Oh Brother" thing, because obviously this was a pretty good turn for Clooney, and Three Kings was another good turn for Clooney.
I love that movie.
Me too. That was the year after. But then, like, if we're really gonna talk about movies that that exploded Clooney's his popularity, his A-list status, it would probably be Oh Brother and Ocean's 11, which an Oh Brother beat it to the punch, right?
Yeah.
Like Oh Brother and Ocean's 11, those two movies back to back, 2000, 2001. I mean, it was it. Like that was okay. Clooney is a bona fide fucking star.
Yeah,
at
and
this
I don't
point.
know if I don't know if it's overwhelming at the time, but I think a lot of people were like, George Clooney in this
Yeah.
movie, and then they were like, "Oh, George Clooney in this movie," you
Yeah.
know, like
Yeah,
it was kind of like you weren't sold on it until you saw it.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
and then-
I mean, he was in The Perfect Storm that came out earlier in 2000, but nobody remembers that role.
No,
You know?
No, not. I mean, isn't that the? Wait, who else was in Perfect Storm?
Mark Wahlberg.
Mark
That's-
Wahlberg.
that's
He's
what I
the,
thought.
he's the
Okay.
he's the bigger. He was
He's
the
one
bigger
that,
star.
He's the
in
one
it.
that
Yeah.
you remember. Yeah.
Right.
Because he's the one who had the wife back on
Right.
shore, and
Yeah.
it's the movies through him.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, like with Ocean's 11, 12, and however many they've gone up to now, Ocean's 17 or whatever. I mean, he goes toe to toe with Brad Pitt.
Yeah. I mean, well,
Perfectly.
he's the Frank Sinatra.
He's
in that.
Ocean. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean that, but honestly, like Oh Brother, I think captured a whole nother set of audience for him.
Yeah.
And then Ocean's 11 just came in and was like boom, it was like an atom bomb.
yeah,
Well, and then what was the one that he won the Oscar for? The political thriller.
Oh, what was that? Serpico? Not Serpico.
Yeah.
What was that called?
Jason is frozen. Yeah, you're having issues, Jason. Well, I'll remind everyone now that it's we're recording on Zoom.
On the Zoom. Hang on a second here, because what was the movie that? Okay, hang on a second here. Syriana.
I knew it was an S.
Yeah. I knew it was too, but I just could not put it together. I thought it was closer to Serpico than Syriana.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was. I mean, that was one that it's like you saw it, and it's like, yeah, he's gonna win. He's gonna win an Oscar for that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, so basically after this, it's time. You know, they go to meet Maurice at the fights because he never misses the fights. And so he goes
Right.
there and he finds and Steve Zahn is not doing well. He's still messed up over helping them kill the one guy. And he decides he's going to leave. Well,
Yeah.
Jennifer Lopez is there and basically is like, so, you know, you're basically leaving again. And we never see him again.
No, she basically gives him this opt out, right? She's
Yeah.
like, if you want to go, run, and he laughs like, oh, I know you're gonna take me and you're not gonna let me leave. And she's like, no, really, and he's like, oh, really? And he just
leaves.
He fucks off into the night.
Right, and we never see him again. But that doesn't really. I mean, now Kenneth wanted to follow him. He wasn't feeling too good about him.
Yeah.
His blood his blood hunger was probably not satiated from earlier that day, and he, but Maurice is like, let him go. Don't worry about him, and that's because he's completely and totally cut him out of the whole plan.
Right. He thinks they're going to do it tomorrow, but in reality, they're going to do it tonight, which incidentally was also Jack Foley's plan, was to
Undercut
say
them.
we're going to go along with this plan, but we're going to go there tonight and get the
Right.
diamonds. So now they're all on this path together. And Clooney at that time too tells, or Foley tells Buddy, like, you can go now. I'll do the job with them. I'll meet you at the airport. Right. Like, and we can do, well, I'll split half of it with you.
Well, they know things are going to, I mean, he knows that these guys it's not going to be pretty.
Right. People are going to die probably.
Right.
Yeah.
And so he says, but anyway, he decides to come along. And the one thing we haven't talked about with Buddy is his constant
Conversations with his sister.
With his sister. His
Yeah.
his repenting to his sister, because at one point he gets a hooker. This is, I think, when they get to Detroit. He gets a hooker, and then he calls the sister after the moment that the hooker left. He's
Yeah.
like, "Well, how long were you on the phone with your sister? 2 hours. How long were you with the woman? 45 minutes."
Which
And
this is
later,
important. Go ahead.
no, well, it helped them get. That's why they got caught the first, like in their first stint together
Yeah.
in prison, was because because he told his sister everything.
He told his sister before they robbed the bank, and they got caught at the
Right.
bank.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of
So-
waiting
and that's
until
why-
after. Yeah.
And that's why Buddy is so indebted.
Right. So he basically, it's like, because that comes back up later too, where he says, "Hey, you're not going to, what's going on in there and what we might have to do. You're going to be on the phone with your sister for 2 weeks, or whatever, 2 days, or whatever it is." So yeah, so that's kind of a funny little character quirk with the Buddy character with Ving Rhames.
Yep.
Ving Rhames is, we haven't really talked about him, but he had a lot of really good supporting roles during this time.
Oh God, yeah, he did. Absolutely.
He's always good in the Mission Impossible movies.
Yep. Yep.
He's great in Pulp Fiction.
Yep.
And he is terrifying in Pulp Fiction, and he doesn't do anything scary. You just
Right.
don't mess with him.
It's a presence.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a
exactly.
presence. I mean, he goes back to like stuff with he was, I think, an orderly in Jacob's Ladder or something like that.
Yeah, I remember that.
He was in he's great in People Under the Stairs.
Hmm.
Like so good in that. It's like he was like the guy who wanted to break into the house, and he brings a
Mhm.
little boy with him to break into the house. I mean, yeah, the Mission Impossible was 96, Striptease was 96 also.
That's not a
Con
very good
Air.
movie.
Con-
Oh
no,
yeah, Con Air's
Striptease
good.
is not, but it was a cultural like thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Con Air, he was in that right before this. Yeah, well fuck, wasn't he the ambulance partner with Nick Cage in Bringing Out the Dead that came out the year after this? Scorsese's Bringing Out the Dead.
I don't even remember that movie.
Oh, it's a wild movie. It's crazy. It's probably like one of Scorsese's most offbeat flicks. But yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Everybody loves Ving Rhames.
Yeah. And he makes me want to have Arby's every time I see a commercial. Every commercial break.
He has the meats.
He does have the meats.
have the meats.
And he wants to give me the meat sweats.
I'm glad we get to see him some more soon in the new Mission Impossible.
Yes.
Yeah, he's like one of the only people to make it through all of them, other than Tom Cruise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, might be the only. person.
Because Jean Reno left after a while.
Yeah. Well, didn't
and
Jean
it-
Reno get killed in the first one?
No.
Because he
He's a turncoat. in
yeah,
that
he
one.
was a turncoat. He got
Oh,
killed.
he was.
He got
Yeah,
killed.
okay. Yes, he was. No,
And Emilio Estevez got killed in the first one. He kind of
At the
got
very
replaced.
beginning.
He kind of got replaced by Simon Pegg later.
well, Emilio Estevez was killed in the first scene.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he was real. Yeah. Yeah, he was.
because
That's
of Jim Phelps.
Anywho.
Anyway,
Spoiler
yeah.
alert.
Nobody ever talked to what's his face about Mission Impossible because he did not like it.
Who?
Okay.
The original guy, Jim Phelps, that refused to do the movie because of the
What a
turn that was
goof.
going to happen.
What a goofball. What
Yeah,
a
but-
goofball.
But for like 8 seasons, he was the hero. It's like I would feel pretty not wanting to do the bad guy. So they got a real life bad guy, John Voight. Anyway, so
But it's a good turn. It's like a flippity flop. It's good.
every one
Yeah,
of
it's
those.
a flippity flop,
It's a
everybody.
flippity. Anyway, let's get back to Out of Sight. So, so basically, it's like, we're along for the ride, and they got to wear these ski masks, which, I think even Ving Rhames says something. It's like, I've never skied before. Or
I don't ski.
I don't
Yeah.
ski. Yeah.
yeah. Clooney was like, I've never worn a ski mask before, and yeah, Vinger was like, yeah, I don't ski.
You're right. And they bust in. Even the plan kind of sucks. Like instantly, this whole thing is fucked because like white boy Bob is going to go up to the door and basically say they're there for repairs that somebody called, which of course instantly would be wrong if there's only a maid there, right? Because
Right.
the maid would know that she didn't call for repairs. And then he busts in instantly.
I mean,
To
it's
which
kind of
case
dumb
then-
to even answer the door, really.
Sure.
You know?
But then they
Yeah.
all come, like it's instantly, the game is up instantly. There is no sneaking around. There is no messing with anything. The game, they think that Ripley isn't there because, which was not part of the plan, because the idea was to force him to say where the diamonds were.
Right.
So they start going around. Snoop gets distracted by the closet. Kenneth wants to rape the maid.
Yep.
And white boy Bob wants to steal the steaks.
He wants to eat. He's like, I found some steaks.
Right. And
Real
then
big ones.
real big
So
ones.
dumb. So dumb.
He's like, he's taking them out of the fridge and like throwing them outside. Like he's
Right.
legitimately stealing steaks.
Right.
Yeah.
He found some steaks.
He's dumb as
they-
fuck.
They do find the safe, but when they open it,
It's
which they tried to
toupees.
shoot, well, they tried to shoot it open,
Yeah.
which that's stupid.
That was so stupid.
I mean, if they all three died at that moment, that would have been a perfect end to that heist.
Yeah. About the thing that I was kind of annoyed by in that scene is that Nancy Allen, who is in ricochet range, you can see her on camera. It's like she kind of gets up, but it's like, no, you need to move, lady. Like you could easily die here.
Well, she at least gives them the combination.
But then she gives them the combination. Yeah.
Right. And then they open it and it's only toupees. Meanwhile, Foley just kind of fucks up. Though nobody's watching Foley or Buddy. So it's like Snoop can't lead a high-end heist here. I mean, he's no good. He's no good for this. He thinks, I mean, he is somebody who's going to smash and grab.
He's just a hammer, basically.
Right, exactly. He's going to
Yeah.
smash and grab, and Foley knows that all of they're barking up the wrong trees everywhere. Now he discovers that Ripley is hiding in the closet because he can see that the phone line is going into the closet where Ripley's going to try to call the police. Outside, meanwhile, Karen has shown up. Because I think does Steve Zahn give her that information?
No, she follows them.
Oh, that's right. She just that's right. She follows them expertly, I might add. Every time I watch a fucking movie where somebody's getting tailed, they're like right the fuck up on their bumper. And it's like, guys, they look in your rearview mirror. You're being followed by another character is following that has been following you this whole movie. No, she's like like half a block away from them.
Not to make a long episode longer, but there's a moment.
Too
There's
late.
a moment at the fights where Clooney tells Ving Rhames to just go. It's like,
Yeah.
I'll take care of this. I'll still give you 50%
Right.
of our take. He's like, well, no, who's going to watch your back? And he looks at the camera, and it's like he's looking at Lopez, right?
I think he knows she's there, yes.
He knows she's there.
Right.
So he also knows that she's going to be at the house because she is essentially the backup, right?
Right.
So what did he really think was going to happen at the end? Did he think he was going to get away still? That she was going to let
Well,
him?
now remember, he was going to get away, and then the conscience takes over.
It's true, but was he? I don't know. How would he know? How would he know that she wouldn't call like a bunch of backup?
Well,
Well-
he could have. Well, I think what he could have left with Ving Rhames, right? Of the
Well, yeah, in the
of the
movie,
followed.
and the way the movie went, he could have, sure.
Yeah.
But still, I was kind of like assuming a lot, right? Because
Well,
if he
it was
thought
kind
that
of
she was
confusing.
there and watching and backup, maybe she would have called more backup. Like, I don't know. Just it's this little like a little bit of too movie like in this last act.
Yeah.
Yeah, he also, when she shows up in the house, says shit, like he didn't realize she
Right,
was there.
which is
Well,
like,
he was. Well, I think.
this is why I asked the question. Did he
Well, no, I
expect her to
think-
be there or not? right?
I think he expected to be long gone before everything went the way it went.
Maybe, maybe.
He expected to be long gone before bullets started firing. Now, also remember when he was saying all of this stuff, they didn't expect for the maid to be there either.
Yeah.
So everything kind of snowballed to the point where it's like he couldn't leave. Even if he wanted to, he wouldn't have felt right leaving. So all of the violence that takes place, he never intended on happening. I think he intended on slipping away, getting the diamonds, and they were going to fuck off long before anything more would have steamrolled to the point where, and if
he knew violence was going to happen because he told Ving Rhames to leave.
Yeah.
At the bar, he's like, I will go with them and do the job. He knew what Maurice was like.
But I think he still hoped to be long gone before any kind of violence would have taken place.
Maybe.
Again, I mean, even if he expected violence, I don't think he expected the maid to be there. So, it's like I don't know. But
I don't know either.
I mean, it's a good question, but I mean, I think he expected Karen to clean up the mess, basically.
Yeah.
And
he would slip away ahead of things. I mean, maybe.
Yeah. I mean,
it's a big risk. But maybe he thinks, hey, we just had this.
We just had this
encounter,
times.
Right? The sexy times,
right?
But what does she end up doing? Right? I mean, all shit goes down.
Right. Well, everything goes wrong. I mean, every single thing goes wrong.
Clooney kills.
Well, he kills Kenneth, but first we should back up because he finds Albert Brooks, and he finds Albert Brooks, and he says, and he's like, "Hey, you're an idiot for telling Steve Zahn anything," and he's like, "Well, nobody was going to believe him." It's like they're here now, and it's like, well, they're not going to ever find it. It's like they're going to kill you. And so basically that's what he is. It's like he everything has, every possible thing goes wrong. The maid is there, which makes Kenneth hungry for rape. The white boy Bob is still a big guy who will shoot you if you get in the way of his steaks, but just don't make him climb up the stairs.
Right.
And Snoop is a crazy person.
They set that up really well, though, with that guy.
Right. But so, like, everything has gone wrong from the beginning, and and it's like it's not going to be the end that he expects, because he doesn't want Midge to get hurt, and he doesn't want Dick to be killed. So now he's kind of trapped. Now, but he does know that.
He would have left Dick there. He would have left Dick. It's all about Midge.
Sure, but he was, but like, but at the same time, it's like I don't think he didn't expect anybody to get hurt. He expected, I'm going to find the diamonds and I'm going to get out of there, because he is the only person who knows what uncut diamonds look like.
He doesn't.
That's
care
another
about Dick.
problem.
He doesn't care about Dick.
Well, but he wasn't supposed to be there either, so he didn't expect. Now he may not care if Dick got killed. I don't know if he wants Dick to be killed. But he didn't expect for him to be there anyway.
Well, Dick was definitely going to die, because Dick was going to have to make up some shit about the diamonds, because the diamonds are gone, right?
Right.
So maybe he did feel a little guilty.
Right. And he spots the diamonds at the bottom of the fish tank, because he knows that uncut diamonds look like just sparkly rocks.
Which those looked way different than all the other rocks. They didn't look just like rocks.
That was for the audience, probably.
It was very much a differentiator. Like they looked like kind of
right. But this came out on June 26, 1998. Dummies are in the movie theater watching this movie, Jason.
Doesn't matter when it came out. Dummies are in the movie theater watching.
Fair enough.
Bitches.
So anyway, he he tells Ving Rhames to go on, because he's like, man, Midge is going to get raped, isn't she? And Ving Rhames is like, yeah, probably. He's like, well, you got to go, because what's about to happen is you're never going to be off the phone with your sister. And he knows at that point he's got to kind of get involved, which pretty much seals his fate. I mean, he's going to be caught. and he kills Kenneth in the bed right next to Midge. And then White Boy Bob, hearing the gunshot, comes up the stairs, trips, and blows his own fucking head off.
It's great. It's great. It's
It is
funny.
hilarious. The first time he fell, I was like, "Oh, they just left in a slip on the ice." And then the second time, I'm like, "Well, maybe not."
Yeah.
And then the third time, I'm like, "Oh, they set that up brilliantly."
Yep. This
Right.
white boy is clumsy.
But then but Maurice now is, now he's gonna he's gonna shoot Clooney, but they're out of bullets, so they tussle around a little bit. And he does eventually get the gun from White Boy Bob. And Jennifer Lopez comes in, and when he turns towards her, she blows Maurice away. So the good cop kills the bad guy, I guess. The good guy kills the bad guy, which is good. Yeah, I'm fine with that. She shoots him in the throat.
Yeah, and then Clooney does the only thing he can think to do, which is unload his guns, put the balaclava back on to make himself not himself, right? So she can finish him because he does not want to go back to jail.
Right.
She obliges kind of by shooting him in the leg and cuffing him to the stairs.
To the banister, yeah.
Yeah.
And so so he gets arrested. Ving Rhames makes it to wherever he's headed. He's doing good. He's got all the diamonds, and we find out that Karen could have left a day earlier, but she decided to wait to transport another prisoner from Detroit down to Florida, who turns out to be Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he is a master breaker out of jailer.
Yeah.
Whatever that would be called.
An escape artist.
Escape
There
artist.
it is.
Prison escape artist.
Yeah. And because she's like, well, maybe, because he's like, well, maybe the lady marshal thought we had a lot to talk about, and she kind of smiles, knowing that the chase will probably continue in another time.
Yeah.
So anyway, this movie didn't do particularly well.
Nope.
Did very well with critics. But it was sandwiched in a pretty bad time in a pretty big summer. The week before it, Mulan came out.
I mean,
there's
not a lot of crossover audience there.
Yeah, but parents aren't going to be. The parents are taking. The parents going to have to get date night. But still, it's going to be.
What else?
Well, the same day it came out, another family movie came out, and that was Dr. Dolittle. But the week after was Armageddon.
Yeah, that's the one.
And so it was kind of sandwiched between, and a couple of weeks before it was The Truman Show, which was doing probably pretty
that did pretty
business.
Well. Yeah.
So it's kind of sandwiched.
It was Armageddon for Out of Sight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then later in the summer, where else are you going to put it? Because There's Something About Mary, Mask of Zorro. Those came out later. That and Saving Private Ryan came out in 3 consecutive. So you couldn't even move it to a later week. It was trapped in a bad spot.
Will 12 million be a good first weekend?
It would have probably been okay. It was
on a $48 million budget. Not great. Not great.
That's what it did its first weekend.
Yeah, it probably would have came in third, maybe, with that kind of money.
So Soderbergh was kind of like, he wasn't doing so hot. He made great movies, but he wasn't making any money. He hit big with his first feature. Sex Lies and Videotape was a massive hit, and it made money. It put his name on the map for sure, but then he made a bunch of movies that just did not make money. Lost a lot of money, like indie films that lost money, to the point where he made Schizopolis for $250,000 and it only made $10,000. like
Yeah.
Holy moly.
bad kind of failures. So this, even though it might not have been a hit, it still at least made more than its budget. Right?
True.
Which was the first time that had happened for him since Sex, Lies, and Videotape. And then The Limey came out the next year, and that lost money. It wasn't until the year 2000 where he finally like hit pay dirt. Aaron Brockovich and Traffic, both about $50 million pictures, made fucking all the money. And won all the awards. Like 2000 was truly the year that Soderbergh finally kind of broke through.
Yeah.
Yep. And then Ocean's 11, of course, the year after that, he was kind of given the keys to the kingdom after those two films in 2000, and he made Ocean's 11, which just broke the bank. Yeah.
Yeah, but 1998 as a whole, stay tuned, because at some point, I'm sure this year, we are going to look back like we did with 97, because I'm just kind of scrolling through here, and whew, there's some good stuff.
Good stuff.
There's some real good stuff that we can share some memories on. So anyway, I still like this movie.
I like it
a lot.
I like it a lot too, but it'll probably be another 10 years before I see it again, maybe longer.
I will say the Kino Lorber 4K is real nice looking.
Yep. I watched it on the Peacocks, and it looked fine. Looked good.
Look fine. Look good.
Yeah,
Look fine.
looked good. Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts, Chuck?
Nothing. I mean, it's an enjoyable movie. I'll say that. I enjoy it. It's just not. Yeah, I enjoy it. I'll go with that. I think that's good enough for me.
I think it's interesting that Soderbergh kind of, after he made this, he made 3 movies that were much more serious in tone, right? That had things to say. The Limey had a lot to say. Aaron Brockovich had a lot to say. Traffic had a fuck ton of things to say, right?
Yeah.
This was sort of like more just freewheeling, fun-loving Soderbergh, which you don't really get a lot of in his career. So for that, it's kind of a neat little anomaly.
Well, and it's interesting too, because it is a studio picture.
Yeah.
At a time in which the studio could have said, "Hey, we want this to be tweaked a little bit here to be more like Tarantino, or a little bit there to be more like Tarantino." Throw in the N-word a bunch, or throw in, whatever, jazz it up a little bit. There could have been people who might have said, and maybe they did say that.
Maybe.
But he even quoted about how he was very conscious about what he was doing every step of the way, and making the movie he wanted to make.
Yeah.
You could still feel the Elmore Leonard of it all.
Oh, well, sure,
of course.
sure,
And you
sure.
should feel
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
you should feel it. I mean, that's the material, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But he
So
should be, and he was able
If they
to make.
told him to make an Elmore Leonard film, he did. 100% did.
For sure.
Yeah. So, all right. So next, well, let's see here. Next week, we're going to finish out our month of 90s movies with a movie I haven't seen in almost 30 years, True Romance. So we're going to go back. We're going to go back to the Tarantino well a little bit.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about True Romance with Christian Slater at oh man, I don't know if this is the most Christian Slater that was probably Pump Up the Volume.
yeah, but it's in the conversation.
Oh, sure.
I mean, he was still Christian Slater in Robin Hood, so
Kevin Costner was Kevin Costner too.
Yeah. We'll talk about this in next week, but I really feel like Christian Slater is very much a Quentin Tarantino surrogate fantasy in this movie. Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
He's writing his like ideal self.
That's a professional tease right there.
Yeah. I would like to still know what was going on. I want to know his character's backstory on the USS Excelsior in Star Trek 6. I'm sure there's a Memory Beta article out there that explains what he was doing. Anyway, so that is next week, January 25th, Wednesday. That's Wednesday morning. Go to filmseizure.com. You can find everything there. You can follow us Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Mastodon. All of those things you can find where to follow us there on the website or in the description of wherever you are listening to this, especially if you're listening to us on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, or YouTube. I probably missed one in there, but whatever. Yeah,
Cool.
Yeah. If you're listening to us on something I didn't mention, I
Let us
forgot that one.
know.
Well, I
Yeah.
forgot that one. So anyway, so yeah, do that. Now, next Monday afternoon, I have a really interesting Monster Mondays. It's a really good episode of Kolchak the Night Stalker. It's got a really weird title too. They have been, they are, they will be, about invisible aliens. Very interesting episode. So, or a very interesting episode of Kolchak. Monster Mondays is bullshit. But anyway, come learn about this episode of Kolchak, and then go watch it on NBC.com. Yeah, this Friday at my website, bmovieanima.com, I'm continuing my David Winters marathon with 1987, I believe, action movie called Mission Kill that had a co-starring role for the late great Cameron Mitchell. So
Yay!
yay. Movie led by one of the most uninteresting people in the world, Robert Ginty, in terms of how he acted. He was kind of an all right guy, but he didn't have a whole lot of personality on screen. Anyway, you can do that at bmovieanima.com. So until next week, when we kind of finish out our little interesting 90s fare, I am Jeff Arbuckle.
I'm Chuck Moore.
I am Jason Oliver, and you have been listening to Film Seizure.